Kristin, Eliza, Jennifer, and Sarah stepped into the quiet December night, believing it was just another closing shift, but within hours their lives were stolen, and Austin would be haunted by a mystery that still refuses to fade. On a chilly December evening in 1991, the city of Austin moved at an unhurried pace, its neighborhoods glowing with holiday lights and the smell of fireplaces drifting through the air. Tucked into a small strip mall on West Anderson Lane sat a bright yogurt shop, a favorite stop for families and teenagers looking for a sweet treat after school. Inside, 4 teenage girls to sisters and their close friends wiped down counters, stacked chairs, and counted the evening's earnings as closing time approached. They had worked late shifts before, and nothing about this night seemed different. Outside, the parking lot was nearly empty, lit by a few flickering lamps. Cars passed occasionally on the nearby road, their headlights casting brief stripes of light across the shop's windows. To anyone watching, it looked like a typical Friday night, quiet and safe. As the girls prepared to lock up, a cool wind swept through the area. Somewhere beyond the shopping center, a dog barked, its sound carrying through the still air. The girls finished their tasks methodically, unaware of any danger. No one noticed a shadow lingering near the edge of the lot or the faint squeak of a door hinge from a neighboring building. Nearby residents later recalled the night as unusually calm, almost too calm, as if the city itself were holding its breath. Not long after midnight, a driver passing the strip mall saw smoke curling into the sky. Within minutes, bright flames leapt from the roof of the yogurt shop, turning the quiet night into a scene of chaos. Firefighters arrived quickly, their sirens breaking the silence. But the blaze was already fierce, fed by something more than melting plastic and paper. Neighbors gathered at a distance, drawn by the roar and heat, their faces pale in the glow. When the flames were finally under control and crews entered the building, they were met with devastation far beyond what a simple fire should cause. Among the smoldering debris lay evidence of a crime far more terrible than anyone could have imagined. By dawn, news of the tragedy had spread through Austin. Parents clutched their children a little tighter, shopkeepers checked their locks twice, and the once cheerful yogurt shop stood as a blackened reminder that even the most ordinary night can hide unimaginable danger. The city awoke to a mystery that would grip it for decades, a puzzle of smoke, silence, and secrets that refused to fade. Morning light revealed the full extent of the devastation. The yogurt shop's cheerful colors were gone, replaced by twisted metal, charred walls, and the acrid smell of burned plastic. Investigators moved carefully through the ruins, wearing masks against the smoke and ash. Even with so much destroyed, small details began to emerge. Near the cash register, a few coins had melted into the countertop. In a corner of the shop, a receipt, half burned but still readable, hinted at the final sales of the night. Most telling of all were faint traces of an accelerant, a chemical signature that revealed the fire had been deliberately set. This was not an accident or a careless spark, it was a calculated attempt to erase something far worse. Detectives collected every fragment they could find. Fingerprint experts dusted for prints on anything that had survived the heat, while crime scene photographers documented each angle. The victims' families arrived one by one, their grief sharpening the urgency of the investigation. Reporters crowded the perimeter, their cameras capturing each movement of the police as the story began to spread beyond Austin. What had first appeared to be a tragic fire was now clearly a violent crime. The question was, who could commit such a brutal act, and why? Tips flooded in almost immediately. Some callers claimed they had seen 2 men loitering near the shop late that night. Others spoke of unfamiliar cars speeding away just before the fire was noticed. A nearby grocery store employee mentioned a strange smell, like gasoline, drifting through the parking lot, but the accounts conflicted. One witness described the men as tall and lean, another as stocky and wearing baseball caps. Detectives built composite sketches, but none led to a definitive suspect. Theories multiplied as quickly as the evidence stalled. Some investigators believed robbery was the motive, noting the missing cash drawer. Others suspected a more personal connection, someone who knew the girls or held a hidden grudge. A few even wondered if the fire was a cover for something deeper, a crime carefully planned to confuse and frighten. Each possibility raised new questions, and every clue seemed to contradict another. As days turned to weeks, the case began to feel like a maze with no exit. Austin's residents grew restless, their unease fed by nightly news updates that offered no clear answers. The once lively strip mall became a place people avoided after dark, its burned storefront a silent warning. Despite the mounting pressure, the investigators refused to rush, determined to uncover the truth hidden beneath layers of smoke and ash. Months slipped into years, and the investigation became a constant presence in Austin's headlines. Detectives refused to give up, even as leads cooled and witnesses moved away. Public pressure mounted with each anniversary of the crime, and the families of the victims demanded progress. Then, after a long silence, a break finally appeared. A group of young men who had grown up in the same neighborhoods as the victims drew the attention of police. Their names had surfaced before in passing tips, but now patterns in their movements and late-night habits raised suspicion. Detectives learned they often gathered near the strip mall, and some had minor records for petty crimes. It was enough to bring them in for questioning. The interrogation stretched late into the night, conducted in small, windowless rooms under bright fluorescent lights. Investigators compared notes, pressing the men with inconsistencies in their stories. One admitted being near the yogurt shop on the evening of the fire, but claimed it was only coincidence. Another struggled to keep his timeline straight, contradicting himself about where he had been after midnight. Days later, two of them gave partial confessions, hinting at involvement without providing a clear account. Their words included details that had never been released publicly, fueling belief that the case was finally cracking open. Yet the evidence refused to cooperate. Forensic tests on the preserved samples' fingerprints, hair, scraps of fabric failed to match any of the suspects. No DNA, no clear physical link connected them to the crime scene. Defense attorneys argued the confessions were the result of exhaustion and pressure, pointing to the long hours of questioning and the youth of the men involved. Community opinion fractured. Some residents were convinced the suspects were guilty and had simply outsmarted the tests. Others believed the young men were being unfairly targeted because investigators were desperate for closure. Despite the doubts, prosecutors moved forward, certain they could persuade a jury. Courtrooms filled with reporters and curious locals eager to witness justice at last. But as hearings dragged on, cracks appeared in the state's case. Witnesses recanted, memories blurred by time, and key statements were challenged for accuracy. The once celebrated breakthrough began to look fragile. By the time verdicts were delivered, many observers sensed that the truth remained buried. The accused men walked a strange line, neither fully cleared in the eyes of the public nor definitively proven guilty. Austin was left with an uneasy realization: the most promising suspects might not be the real killers at all. Years passed, and the case drifted into the background of Austin's collective memory, but it never disappeared. Advances in forensic science reignited interest as new tools emerged that could examine even the smallest traces left behind. Detectives who had once been young officers returned to the evidence room with renewed determination. Carefully sealed boxes were opened, revealing charred fabric, melted metal, and preserved swabs taken from the scene decades earlier. What once seemed impossible to test now held the potential for answers. Specialists in modern DNA analysis combed through the samples, applying techniques far more sensitive than those available in the early 90s. Under powerful microscopes and advanced chemical processes, they detected a partial genetic profile that had remained hidden for years. The results were startling. The DNA belonged to an unidentified male, someone never included in the original suspect list. This single discovery shifted the entire direction of the investigation and cast serious doubt on the confessions that had driven the earlier prosecutions. The revelations spread quickly through court filings and news reports. Defense attorneys seized on the evidence, filing appeals and demanding new trials for the men who had spent years labeled as murderers. Judges reviewed the case, and convictions that once seemed solid began to unravel. One by one, the accused were released, their records questioned, and in some instances cleared entirely. Public opinion swung sharply, and many who had believed in their guilt were forced to reconsider. The families of the victims, already burdened by decades of loss, faced the painful reality that the people once held responsible might have been innocent all along. Investigators returned to the long list of names and tips collected in the early days. They re-interviewed witnesses who were now older, some with memories softened by time. Cold case units collaborated with national databases, uploading the unknown DNA profile in hopes of finding a match through relatives or newly collected samples. Each search brought anticipation but ended in disappointment as months turned into years with no direct hit. Despite the frustration, the discovery of new evidence breathed life into a case many had considered dormant. It proved that the truth had not been fully uncovered and that someone somewhere still held the key to what happened inside the yogurt shop that night. The investigation pressed on, driven by technology and the unyielding belief that even the most carefully hidden secrets could one day surface. Decades after the fire, the yogurt shop still stands in Austin's memory as a place of unanswered questions. The lot where it once operated has been rebuilt and repainted, but residents who drive past can almost feel the weight of what happened there. Every anniversary brings candles, flowers, and quiet gatherings where families of the 4 young victims speak their names and share stories that keep them alive in spirit. They refuse to let time erase the tragedy, even as the city around them continues to grow and change. Investigators have not given up. The partial DNA profile discovered years ago remains carefully stored in national databases, checked again whenever technology improves. Genetic genealogy, a method that uses distant family connections, has become a hopeful tool. Experts compare the unknown profile against countless others, looking for a relative who might lead to the person responsible. Each small advancement sparks a fresh round of interviews and revisits to old evidence, from forgotten witness statements to overlooked photographs. Detectives follow even the faintest hint, knowing that one overlooked clue could finally open the door to justice. The families endure a complicated mix of hope and grief. Some believe that science will eventually reveal the killer's identity, while others struggle with the possibility that the person may never be found. They attend community meetings and speak to new generations about the importance of remembering the victims, ensuring that their daughters are more than just names in a file. Their persistence keeps the case alive in the public eye, drawing attention from journalists, podcasters, and documentary filmmakers who revisit the story and introduce it to audiences far beyond Texas. For the city of Austin, the unsolved murders remain a reminder of vulnerability. Parents caution their children to stay alert, and local crime investigators often cite the yogurt shop tragedy when discussing the importance of evidence preservation. The crime scene itself may be gone, but its shadow stretches across decades, a silent warning that even the most ordinary place can hide unthinkable danger. As each year passes without a match to the unknown DNA, the mystery deepens. Somewhere, the person responsible continues life unnoticed, or perhaps has already passed away, leaving only a hidden trail. Yet the search continues, fueled by determination and the belief that justice delayed does not have to mean justice denied. The unanswered questions still echo. Who entered that small shop on a quiet December night, and how much longer will the truth remain out of reach?